In November of 2023, the Swell Pod took a 10-day journey across 5 states, traveling 3,580 miles with one challenge in mind.
And that challenge was to interview 100 pleasantly rebellious humans to uncover deep truths about what it takes to create something that has never existed before, challenge the status quo, maybe even change the world.
This is the Kiln Road Trip, created and produced by the Swell Pod.
In partnership with Kiln, Moterra Camper Vans, and sponsored by Taurus.
I'm Spencer McKeown.
And I'm Josh Taylor, and together we're the co-hosts of the Swell Pod and your guides on the Kiln Road Trip. Follow along on the journey.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow the Swell Pod on social media, and subscribe to your YouTube channel at, you guessed it, the Swell Pod.
This is interview 86 of the Kiln Road Trip, and today we're at Kiln Leucadia in California talking with Rose Mcfadden. Rose is a Purple Heart veteran and jewelry designer at her company, Isabella Rose Design Co. Since launching in 2020, they've gained a reputation for designing exceptional singular pieces and offering everlasting Navajo-made jewelry by artist and designer Rose Mcfadden. Their exclusive collections are made from the finest materials, ethically and indigenously sourced. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you enjoy. Rose Mcfadden, thank you so much for joining us on the Swell Pod. This is the Kiln Road Trip, where we're on a journey to interview 100 different pleasantly rebellious people. And we're on our last leg of the journey, the last day here in Leucadia. And it's beautiful here in Encinitas. It's been a crazy morning though this morning. Waking up to construction beeps, Spencer.
Yeah. Well, no, I did. I slept in the road trip van. I don't know if you've seen it out there, but we'd love you to do some. We're getting people to draw on it with
absolutely.
Chalk pens, or a challenge. Some of it's come off with the rain, so we need some new challenges.
Yeah.
So maybe when you leave, we'll get you to draw something on there. Well, nice to meet you. Would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Okay, my name is Rose Mcfadden. I am a full Navajo Diné woman. I come from Arizona, and the Navajo land is a big reservation area here in the country. I have dabbled in a lot of different art from the culture there, and something that stuck with me is jewelry. So I do a lot of mixed media art when it comes to jewelry. I utilize natural stone that is kind of like some traditional pieces that we normally use in our jewelry making. And I mix it with silver, precious metals, gold, polymer clay. I'm wearing a piece today that just has a mix of beads, polymer clay, gold accent. And I actually got into art all over again. For a little chapter of my life, I was in the military. I was in the Army, and I got injured on my second deployment. And for anybody that has ever got injured, living physically disabled not only hinders what your body can do, but also your mind. Kind of puts you at like a standstill that, you question everything. You don't know if you have a life ahead of you, if you'll ever get married, if you're ever going to have kids, if you're going to get out of the wheelchair, a lot of those different things. So my time afterward is I was doing school, and then I really just got back into art. I would say art saved my life mentally and allowed me to continue to be creative, continue to dream. And I think if I didn't do that, I, probably wouldn't, really be here later in life. Hopeful, married, 2 little kids. I just had a second baby earlier this year. And art, and having this fun little shop that we created a few years ago that was basically put together. It's named Isabella Rose, after my daughter, so that I can just remind her and other little girls that, hey, there's tough stuff that's going to happen in life. We can't predict what it's going to be, but we can do what we can do after that. And that is grasping onto all the tiny little things that led us here. So for me, it was the culture. It was remembering the grandparents, the grandfathers that were in all the wars that did get injured and came home and still had families and still raised their children and also still became teachers. entrepreneurs, or, you know, whatever they ended up doing with the rest of their life after their injury. That was my inspiration. And now I get to have a little story that I get to share with my kids as well of what my journey was.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah, we've not had anyone else that's, one, has been a veteran, two, that's been done something so creative.
Denise didn't give us enough information before this interview. Like, I'm kind of blown away. Right,
we like surprises here.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
That's exactly it.
So when did you start kind of getting into art? Because you mentioned you kind of got back into art. Mm-hmm. So where did that start?
Gosh, you know, my dad did silversmith. I had uncles that did sand painting. I have grandmothers and aunts that did weaving. My mom was a seamstress. She also was like a queen. So she was a traveling queen that represented the tribe. And they did a lot of stuff for the communities. Family, lots of family members that are painters. You know, they either do it on pottery, they use canvas, acrylic, oils. They also make their own by utilizing nature and the colors that would be generated from plants and flowers and things like that. Hunting, of course, utilizing hides and things like that and incorporating them into jewelry or things that you're using like in your everyday life. Belt, handbags, a lot of those things. So all of that stuff is what I was really around growing up. And that's what I consider my culture being rich, because I think we had a lot of perfectionists in the family, but they're perfectionists in their own skill set, right? And just being around that, I am a versatile person in general. And so I gravitated to a lot of the different things and learned how to do it until I found something that I made mine, which was jewelry. And I actually just used everything and incorporate that into what I do.
Can you tell us about the moment? So you were talking about, so you were in a wheelchair after your second deployment, is that right?
I got injured. I had a brain injury and a spinal injury, and I actually couldn't walk. I didn't have feeling in my legs. I had to go through a lot of therapies and things like that. And of course, like everything has you in a wheelchair, right? Because you're trying to go through and get everything going again, if it could. So with therapy and all of that stuff, I eventually was able to be how I am now. Mm-hmm. You live with pain no matter what, but at least you're walking around, right?
Yeah.
And you're presentable, and you could hold the job. You could do a lot of these things that we need to do to get by day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so to the point where you started, where you made that decision to start making your jewelry, can you tell us about that moment? Like, was it just like, help us understand, you know, that moment of getting back into it or getting into the jewelry?
Yeah. So we used to live in Arizona in 2018. We had a house here. We came back and we continued with our work. My husband was a pastor. We were pastoring a church. We were doing outreaches in the communities here in San Diego. And there was something missing. I just had my daughter. And maybe this is for most women, that once you have a baby and your life changes, you know, once your baby is out of the infant stage, whatever you were doing, whether you have a job to go back to, or you're on maternity leave, or you have to make a tough decision of being a stay-at-home mom, you have to have that reality check. And either all your dreams and all your aspirations that you had as like a single person with no children can go out the window. It could take a back seat. It's really up to you. So for me, I had a little girl, and my daughter's name's Isabella. And I had that moment of where I wanted to decide what type of woman do I want to help her be, to shape her. And I don't want to mold her into whatever I want her to be. I want her to be able to pull things the way that I had to pull things from the people that were leading people in my life. So I just was like, okay, mommy has a master's in business. I know how to run a business. We already run a business and a nonprofit. But I do want to do something where we use our God-given talents and abilities, which only we possess, and it's special. And I want to show you how to do something. So I just decided, like, okay, I'm going to pull from all these little different artistry things that mommy has in her tool belt. And I started dabbling with polymer clay, with canvases, with getting back into oil, acrylic painting. And I just started designing, and I wanted to do something that was wearable art. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't follow anybody on social media at that point. I didn't know it was a thing. I certainly didn't see it ever in like a Native American type of, it's out there. Actually, it really exists. I just never seen it because I didn't follow anything. So everything I did was just kind of just true to who I was. And my whole thing for naming it after my daughter was so she could be fearless, have no boundaries in the business sense, dream big, and bring along people in the process, and let creativity flow and be true to yourself and not a copycat. And there's no blueprint for that. You just do it. So that's what I wanted her to learn, and that's why I do what I do now.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Very, very. It's like you seem like you have a very concise way of understanding it, and it's really clear. Sounds in, and I want to say it sounds easy, but like, what is been your challenge? Like, the biggest challenge to get to where you are now, or in fact, maybe it's something you're already like still struggling with, so that you can either grow the business, or I don't know. Yeah, what comes to your mind?
It's scary. It's time management. You know, that same reason of like, I would say like the question you just asked was being at like a crossroad of like, when did you know? When did you know you wanted to do something? I'm actually at a crossroad right now because I have to think about the time management and the quality of like where you're putting your work into. So like, can you have your designs on a runway? I can, but I also just had a baby, and like I homeschool my daughter. So you're taking time away from somewhere, right? And we don't live in 30-hour days. If we had 30-hour days, that would be amazing because we would get enough sleep, and then we would have enough time to like do all these different things. But I am at that crossroad. So like, you know, I can't navigate through that. You know, it might be in 6 months, and I may have to have made some tough decisions of, you know, say no to some great opportunities. But I feel like I can be okay with those things. You know, I have a priority list. It's husband, marriage, it's the kids, and then it's our other responsibilities for our business and our nonprofit. And the shop and everything I do is lower on the list. So I have to, you know, take a hard peel down every time I go lower on the list, and have to realize like, yeah, you know, we'll see if this could be something that's great. I mean, right now we're in different museums and art galleries here in Southern California, and I'm really content with that because, you know, I get to work with other artists. You know, there's more demand once you get seen more, right? And if we can't fulfill the demand, then we can't do quality work. And, you know, being an artist myself, everything is about the quality of your work. You know, there's only one of a kind pieces, and that's it.
Yeah.
Some big decisions coming up then.
Absolutely, yeah.
What you're wearing, is that, did you say?
No, it's the earrings.
So it's both. So
it's both.
This is a beaded brim hat.
That's amazing.
This is something I had fun doing. There's no real design to it. It's just kind of, I did it as I go. an added little fun piece to something modern. So
Yeah.
the idea of the work that I like to do is adding some of our artwork onto a more modern, trendy
Canvas.
designs
Oh,
for
yeah.
the most part. And for earrings, I don't have a specific style. I incorporate a lot of different things. Every collection that I do is different from the last one.
Interesting.
And I select everything from the locations. I pick my photographers. I have a team of photographers and models here in San Diego and in Houston and in Arizona. And these are all good friends. These are all women. So I only work with women by choice so that we could empower each other, and they have their creativity that gets added to our collections as well. And that was one of the most important things that I wanted to stay true to. So we all get to have fun. It's always a fun time.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's incredible. How would you describe? How can people find your shop? So is it available online? Can they follow you on Instagram? How can they see your jewelry and your art?
Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram, IsabellaRose.co, or you can look us up, www.IsabellaRose.co. Also.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good. It's great.
Yeah.
Is that the last question? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the last question that we ask everybody that comes on the podcast is, what does it take to create something that has never existed before? Before we get into the rest of the episode, we want to thank the partners and sponsors who made the Kiln Road Trip possible. The Kiln Road Trip is brought to you by Kiln. Kiln is a boutique co-working and flex office community with 13 locations in 6 states across the West, dedicated to providing innovative workspaces that empower your team to thrive. Whether you're a solo visionary or an enterprise-level team of up to 100, Kiln transcends being merely a place to work. It's a hub for learning and connecting with like-minded professionals that will make you and your team love where you work.
And if you haven't stepped foot inside a kiln yet, you really need to. On this road trip, we visited every single location, and trust us when we say once you see these beautifully designed spaces, meet the talented team, and connect with fellow members, you won't want to work anywhere else.
Locations include Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, California, and Arizona. And they're growing too, with multiple locations set to open in 2024.
Yeah, so be sure to check out the kiln locations nearest you by booking a tour at kiln.com and answer Swell in the question, how did you hear about us? Once you complete the tour, you'll be entered into a competition where you could win a 1-year membership, their club membership at Kiln.
Yep, you heard that. That's kiln.com, book a tour, and be sure to mention Swell in the question, how did you hear about us?
The Kiln Road Trip is also brought to you by Moterra Campervans, a luxury campervan rental company for iconic road trips. Their top-of-the-line vans are available at 7 locations located near America's best outdoor adventure destinations. They have consistently earned the highest customer ratings in the industry, making Moterra Campervans your gateway to adventure without sacrificing on comfort or service.
That's true, and initially we wanted to take this journey in a 1960s VW bus, but thankfully we found Moterra instead. With 3 van options, we took the Pop Top Classic, which sleeps 4 and is best for those who want to maximize floor space and storage. This was critical for us because it needed to sleep the entire crew, we needed space to edit, and we were traveling with large amounts of equipment, luggage, and other goodies that we picked up along the way.
And this van took us through all 3,580 miles of the trip. Super comfortable and sweet to drive.
And actually, Moterra offers fully planned itineraries if you'd rather leave the planning to someone else.
Visit gomoterra.com/swell. That's gomoterra.com/swell.
This episode is also brought to you by Taurus. Taurus is leading the charge in home energy storage. Taurus makes it easy to achieve energy independence and a greener tomorrow. The Taurus station provides everything you need to generate clean power, efficiently store electricity, and easily manage your energy use.
And installing a Taurus station offers plenty of benefits, including save money on your electricity bill,
also ensure energy security with backup power during outages,
reduce carbon emissions with renewables.
You can also automate EV charging and HVAC systems with 100% renewables.
And enjoy unrivaled system monitoring and support.
If you like the sound of those benefits, get a quote to build your Taurus station in less than 30 seconds. Super easy at taurus.co. That's TORUS.co. Co. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Wow, that's a good one. So I think any other artist could probably agree is that we close our eyes and we go to sleep and we dream. We get woken up in the middle of the night because our brains don't stop. And then we come up with something, keep a notebook and a pencil or pen handy and draw it out before you forget. But it'll always come back.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Kiln Road Trip. Be sure to follow along on the rest of the journey, and you can do that in two ways. One, subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or maybe even watching on YouTube, and follow along on all of our social media platforms, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, at the Swell Pod. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.